Hello and welcome back to the Coming of Cage podcast, your Nicolas Cage movie review podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Derek, and your other host, Ryan, and Ryan is over there somewhere.
What was that, Ryan?
Ryan is here.
Ryan is here, yes.
Yeah, Ryan's not available, so Ryan is here to cover for him.
That's right. And we're recording this on a Thursday, whereas normally we do this on a Tuesday, so I have 2 more days of forgetfulness to forget about this movie entirely. So this
I
is gonna
forgot
be
your
a
name,
really
so
exactly. This is going to be a really interesting experience.
yeah, we're talking 1990s Firebirds, which apparently people call Top Gun with helicopters. Uh, I would maybe argue that's not a fair
Extremely similar, you know.
comparison, but this movie is about, quote, elite Apache helicopter pilots are tasked with destroying powerful armed drug cartels operating in South America. Stars Nicolas Cage, Tommy Lee Jones, and Sean Young. And so I watched this on Laserdisc. If you're watching the show here on the Derrico Studios YouTube channel, you can see I'm holding that up. And on the back, when it's describing the movie, I just wanted to point out. So it says, starring Nicolas Cage, Moonstruck, Tommy Lee Jones, The Package, and sexy actress Sean Young, No Way Out. And I just thought that was interesting and sexist, even for 1990. But yeah, it's got 2 great quotes on the back: astonishing maneuvers by People Magazine and entertaining by Chicago Sun-Times. Awesome. It's just fantastic.
Nice. I feel like that was much more exciting to you than it was to me, but
I mean, maybe it was. I don't know. I don't have a lot of Nicolas Cage laser discs. I think I have 4. I've got this. I've got The Rock, Leaving Las Vegas, and Birdie. I think are the only 4 that I have on laserdisc. So it's just a different experience than watching it, streaming or something like that. So there you go. Anyway,
did you watch this one by yourself or with somebody?
My wife was in the room, but she wasn't like watching it, so she saw parts of it.
But I'm sure she gave some commentary because there's no way she didn't.
I mean, we talked about it. Like, look, this is a boring movie, and arguably not much happens in it, so there wasn't a lot of discussion because there's just not a lot to talk about.
But here we are, going to spend an hour talking about it somehow, right?
So we're gonna try. That's why I'm stretching out the intro here. Okay,
gotcha.
It's called padding.
Nice. Well, if you aren't familiar with our podcast, and normally what we do is we watch the movie separately, and I take notes and kind of notate things going on. Based on Derek's description, you would think that I would have less than a page of notes, but normally I have like 3 to 4 pages, so we'll see how many I have for this one. But yeah, it was an interesting movie. I'd heard of it before. There are people that like it, really, really like it. And there are a few of those, I'm sure. Yeah. So I guess the only way to begin is to get started. So let me open my book here and look at our first notes.
Okay.
No title screens on this one. If you listen to our podcast regularly,
Yeah.
You'll know that usually starting in like the 2000s, when he started doing more low budget movies, they seem to have between 1 and 12 title screens for different production companies involved in the making of the movie. But this was before that, so there was no real title screens for production companies, so that was exciting. We also play Nicolas Cage bingo with custom-made bingo cards, and one of the slots on the bingo cards has a potential of being helicopter establishing shot, which is meant to be a shot taken from a helicopter over like a landscape. But in this case, our one time that's going to be this way, a helicopter establishing shot is an establishing shot with helicopters in it.
With actual helicopters. It's establishing helicopters.
Yes, it's establishing the helicopters, not establishing something else. So that was a fun little thing there. We start off with a message to drug cartels that's just like typed out on the screen
from President
George
W. Bush, or George Bush,
Yeah.
Excuse me, his father, not W.
So
Yeah,
that kind of, I think, is supposed to set up the movie.
I guess. I don't know.
Probably more relevant. in 1990. Although drug
Sure.
cartels are still a thing, but a message from George Bush does not really ring the same way it would probably back then. Um, then we see our young Mr. Nick,
He is really young.
barely a young man in this movie,
Yeah.
but yeah, looking good.
He's very young. It's he's been in some movies, of course, by this point, right? We've seen him in a number of things at this stage. Like this is 1990, so he had already been in 14 movies by this point. Post Moonstruck, for example, and Raising Arizona, but still on the younger side.
Well, Moonstruck is what they used for the back of the laser disc, so that at this time was probably what he was best known for, I imagine.
That's
And if you
true.
saw Moonstruck and was like, I can't wait to see Nicolas Cage in this movie, you were probably disappointed because they're starkly different performances.
Mm-hmm.
He does get some cool outfits in this movie, though, like cool, vintage now, military jackets and stuff like that. I was admiring those the whole time.
Yeah, lots of aviators in this movie.
Lots of aviators, lots of watches, which,
Mm.
I do have a couple brothers that are obsessed with watches, and in this time period, watches were very important for pilots of all kinds, and so it was cool to see that little detail that they made sure they all wore watches
Nice.
in this. Um,
That's a good catch.
My next note is very wooden acting. Not necessarily from Nicolas Cage, but from literally everybody else in the movie. It seems like it's just bland. They're saying things loudly or they're saying things softly, but there's not a lot of emotion behind anything, unfortunately. It
No, I
gets
mean,
better as the movie progresses, but especially in the
yeah,
first like half hour, it was pretty bad.
I agree. And Tommy Lee Jones is like very Tommy Lee Jones in his speech kind of patterns to it. The way he talks, kind of the rhythm to his speech is very like if you were going to do an impersonation of Tommy Lee Jones, I think this movie is a good movie to watch.
Right, good reference. Basically, this beginning is setting up uh, the drug cartels and like Nicolas Cage's experience. He has a flight um, with his crew or whatever, and they get attacked by this. I don't remember what the helicopter is called. I have it somewhere here in my notes, but this some special drug cartel helicopter that's able to take out these military helicopters with absolute precision, and it's got the best pilot in the world in it. And
Hmm.
Nicolas Cage is the only survivor of this attack, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Um, so he goes to they send him to like a specialty um he has to go to like this council, like a war council or something, and talk about his experience. And they especially request him to be put in this special forces thing for taking out this one helicopter guy.
Yeah, I guess at the time, our military's helicopter pilots were not trained in air to air combat, which, look, I don't know if that's true or not, but that seems kind of weird that they wouldn't be trained in that. I'd love to know how like accurate this movie is to the military history at the time. Because like some of the trivia and stuff talks about the specific makes and models of the helicopters, but I mean beyond that, like was this realistic that our helicopter pilots didn't know how to do this stuff? I have a hard
I'll
time
tell you that
believing
one of
that.
the reviews when we get to those does address some of those things that
Okay.
you're interested in. Um, but yeah, they are. There's no, this group is a special task force for taking out this drug cartel and specifically this one helicopter pilot who is also the head of the cartel, I guess, or something like that. Like,
No, he's like a hired like gun for hire type guy.
oh, okay.
So like he's hired.
We don't get much backstory for him. We basically get like a one scene where they show his picture and then we see him in a helicopter, and that's about it.
We're basically told he's like the most dangerous man alive,
With a
and
helicopter.
bad people hire him to do bad things.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He's just a faceless villain essentially. Um, but yeah, so he gets selected for this task force, and they are going to go to South America or wherever this was, and be trained there, I guess, in air-to-air combat, and then go to take out this cartel. And uh, Of course, Tommy Lee Jones is one of the instructors,
Of course.
as one has in a
This
movie like
might have
this.
this might have been the youngest I've ever seen him in a movie.
Oh yeah.
I think so. I'm gonna pull that up because I am curious. I don't know that I've ever seen him in anything before this. Yeah, just kind of looking through it. He's obviously he was in a bunch before this, but I don't think I've ever seen any of it. So
I
this is
mean,
young Tommy Lee Jones for me.
yeah, I mean, I think it's just young in general. But yeah, I don't know if I've seen anything personally uh where he's been younger than this. Um, my next note is busy as a three-pecker goat, which I think is something Tommy Lee Jones says.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound
Um,
like something Nicolas Cage's character would have said in this movie, but
it also raises some questions. Could that goat be doing it with three goats at the same time? I don't
I think
know.
it depends on the angles and the
Yeah.
amount of separation between the peckers.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess no,
I need an
based
artist
on
rendering of
yeah. Okay, everybody listen to this. Please send your artist renderings of a three-peckered goat having sex at the three goats at the same time to Derek. He would love to review your submissions.
comingofcage.com.
There you go. He wears sunglasses in this scene, which is another spot on our bingo card. Love interest introduction. The only woman in the movie.
There are two women or three women in the whole film, and she's the only one who's like an actual character.
Right.
It's awful.
And she is also Lieutenant Einhorn from Ace Ventura. That's where I know her from.
Oh yeah.
Like when I first saw her, she looks familiar. I was like, oh, Einhorn is Finkel. I remember, which is a very problematic
Yeah.
movie. We're not going to get into that, but yes, she
Uh-huh.
did play. That's where I knew her from. So yes, Einhorn is Finkel. Um, yeah. So in this movie, there's a line about, oh no, there's a whole scene where Tommy Lee Jones is having his 40th birthday party, and I instantly felt like I needed a cane.
Because he's treated so old in this movie, particularly from that point forward. He is treated as like the oldest person on the planet
Yes.
by these people.
And I'm 41. If you're watching this, I'm 41 years old. And I don't feel like I look like I'm the same age as Tommy Lee Jones in this movie, but maybe I do, and I just don't know. I don't know because it's me. But it made me feel very, very old.
Well, I feel like Tommy Lee Jones and like Morgan Freeman, they kind of looked the same age for like 20 or 30
True,
years and
true.
then got really old at the end, you know?
Yeah,
But like, how old am I? I am 38,
yeah.
right? So like, not a huge age gap between the two of us. I don't think either of us look as old as Tommy Lee Jones does in this, but
No,
it's kind of like a Steve Martin thing. Like he just went completely, white haired at like
true. Yeah, it could
30.
be that.
So, you
It could be
know,
that. Some people just look older than they are.
yeah.
You know, he looked great. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, yeah. I instantly like had back pain and had to get a cane when they threw a 40th birthday party for him. And we get like at this party we get like our second or third scene of this of our love interest of the movie denying him,
Denying Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
denying Nicolas Cage. He is like constantly. It's very problematic, honestly, the way
Yeah.
he treats her. There's a lot of like gaslighting and just not taking no for an answer. And even though she said no, still doing things like it was bad, and it made
Mhm.
me deeply uncomfortable.
And he's supposed to be the hero of this movie,
Yes.
right? Like he's the Tom Cruise character in Top Gun with helicopters. So he's nowhere near as
But
likable,
the vibes are
but
totally different in this.
completely.
You
Yeah.
know, Cage can be very charismatic,
Yes. Yeah.
but he does not. You don't get the same. You don't get the Maverick vibe from him. He's just more comes across as kind of like an arrogant asshole,
Hmm.
like with very little charisma.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So in this part of this air to air training that they're doing, uh, they have to use this simulator. And I'm sure you love this, Derek, the 1990 air-to-air combat simulator with
It
its
was pretty
advanced
cool.
graphics.
That was great.
But yeah, it looks like an NES game. But we get, I think, like a minute and a half montage of Nick yelling, "I am the greatest."
Yeah, well, that's to your point, right? Like Maverick is a cocky guy, but he's really likable. You want him to win. You want him to succeed. You don't want Nick's character Jake to really succeed much in this movie. He's such an asshole in
Well,
this.
you're to your point about Maverick. Maverick is shown to, even though he's cocky and everything else, he's still like he has his best friend Goose, and he's very empathetic with Goose and not
Yeah.
cocky. They are just very good friends, and so you get to see that other side of him. And
Hmm.
even with Iceman and some of the other characters, there's a rivalry there, but you still feel like there is a deeper connection than just that.
Yeah.
As evidenced by the end of the movie.
Sure. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of things that round out Maverick as a better character than we get from Nicolas Cage's character in this movie.
And I think some of it is just Top Gun rounds out more characters in
Yes.
its movie. Like in this, you have three characters that matter at all in this movie. Everybody else, I don't remember anybody's names. I don't remember anything about them. And I watched this on Monday night. It's only been 3 days, and I can't remember any of these people. That's a
Right.
bad sign. So yeah, he's just super cocky in this training simulator. I will say this, the movie does explain it better later, but there's like this eyepiece that they have to wear, right? And it's supposed to show there's one type of image in one eye and then like data in the other eye. And I don't know this technology. I'm not a military person. I'm not a pilot of any kind. I don't know this technology. And early in the movie, I had no idea what the problem was because I wasn't understanding what was going on. And it took till like the third act for somebody to say it the right way for me to be like, oh, that's why this is
Yeah,
hard.
so in the simulator, basically Tommy Lee Jones is sitting outside of it with somebody else and he's like, "Okay, increase the difficulty." And then Nick Cage aces it, and he's like, "Okay, increase the difficulty again." And Nick Cage aces it, and then every time the guy that is increasing the difficulty for him is like, "Are you sure? Nobody's completed this since 1927." And he's like, "Do it," and it just gets more and more ridiculous. The claims for each difficulty level,
Hmm.
and every time Nick succeeds, he's yelling, "I'm the greatest." It was a weird set of scenes.
It was. But then, like at the end, Tommy Lee Jones is like, all right, now you got to use the eyepiece thing. And all of a
Yeah,
sudden, Nick sucks. And so for me, I'm like, well, then just don't use the eyepiece thing because the movie does no job explaining why that is important at this point in the
not
film.
until the end. Yeah, really.
Yeah. So to me, I'm like, well, then just don't use it because you seem to be fine without it.
Right.
It's like Luke Skywalker. So
Well,
I
he's
don't know.
trying to take advantage of they're trying to train him to take advantage of the technology available on this
Yes.
particular aircraft. And the helmets are really cool. They have like, which I'm sure it's a real military helmet. It has like this
Mhm.
big like forehead piece, very Star Wars looking.
Yeah.
I'm sure that that's where all the sensors or whatever is feeding the data are down to the eyepiece. The eyepiece looks very like sci-fi, even though it's probably real. Um, I liked the way all the technology looked, and like I said, I'm sure it's real military technology, but it was cool to see where I'm sure some sci-fi movies and things like that have gotten their inspiration
Hmm.
um,
Definitely.
for some of those designs.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure like in the original Star Wars, right? When Luke's going down the trench and he's got that big computer thing in his face. That's an older, more sophisticated version of what, we're looking at here. So that was cool. Like the the props and the sets and stuff like that for the most part are pretty good in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, they do a good job. My next note, I don't remember what it's from, but it says "Terrible Chain of Fools" cover.
Oh, like a song cover, you mean?
Yeah, like the
Oh,
Aretha, I think Aretha
the
Franklin
the
song.
the music in this movie is pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm sure they couldn't get the rights, and so they
So,
had to have like I think this was at like a club or something, and there was like a live band singing it.
oh, is this the where he like
Oh,
fights the
gets in the
dude?
fist fight. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
Because
it's
my
that.
next note is fist fight for over girl.
Yeah, it's very like again like Top Gun, right? And things like that. It's a very like bar with music and pool tables kind of night scene.
And yeah, Einhorn is dancing with some guy,
Some guy.
and Nick doesn't like that, even though he's been denied by her about 20 times. He challenges this guy to a fist fight, and then beats the crap out of the guy while she runs away. And then he follows her, and it's just like, "Hey, wasn't that cool how I beat up that guy for you?" And she does not like that. But
But
then
there's
she
no
does.
consequences. Yeah, there's zero consequences for Jake in this movie, right? We never hear from that guy he beat up ever again. He's not reprimanded for it by the military. And Billy and him end up together throughout the movie anyway.
Yeah. this starts to seem to sway her opinion of him, which is really weird. Um,
What one comment that my wife did make is like, "Ladies and gentlemen, a woman written by men."
yes, absolutely, 100%, 100%. Um, three different men actually: Step Tyner, John K. Swenson, and Dale Dye. Nice writing, guys. Um, but uh, they go. So she is also. We haven't really mentioned this, but she is also a helicopter pilot. But she's like a scout. She
Yeah,
like would
they're
go ahead
spotters.
and like yeah like spot things for the other helicopters. So then they are out together on a like practice flight or something, and it's probably 2.5 minutes of just weird sexual innuendos towards each other about helicopters.
But they're in different helicopters. So
Yes,
that means both of their like co-pilot navigator
had to
people,
listen to this
right?
along with
At a,
probably the tower.
you would think, right? It's
Yeah,
so like, and these are military people.
yeah.
This is so inappropriate. And nobody really seems to care all that much that it's happening. Like you would think that Tommy Lee Jones's character, at a minimum, would not want this bullshit going on
right.
because he takes
They're
this
supposed to be
very
taking out a
seriously.
cartel, doing like very serious work.
Well, and Nick's character Jake, like, he's supposed to be avenging the death of a friend.
Yeah, which
You
we don't know
know,
the friend's name or like
no,
hear anything about him after the first 30 seconds of the movie.
uh, I don't
But
remember
yeah,
his
I mean,
name.
it wouldn't have surprised me if they had had a scene of him masturbating in the
Ugh.
helicopter seat because he was so insatiably horny
Can I just
during the
say
scene.
thank you everybody for not including that scene? I just
He might as well have been though, like 'cause it was just so bad and deeply uncomfortable. It wasn't funny. It
no,
wasn't
no.
like cute. It was just gross. If I went over to your house and you and Rachel were on walkie-talkies doing this, I would probably leave. As much as I love you both, that is just a deeply uncomfortable conversation to be around for anybody that's not one of the two people involved.
It's awful. And even to make things worse than that already sounds, she's not interested. She doesn't like it.
But she continues making puns herself.
Yeah, her character's so just inconsistent at best.
Yeah. So then we get a scene of Nick Cage hitting like a heavy bag while Tommy Lee Jones is using like a speed bag for
Hmm.
boxing. Um,
Because
and
this is part of showing his age. Like we've watched him jog, and like every single person at the base blasts past him. One dude's running backwards, which all just seems kind of like just disrespectful to a superior
super
officer.
disrespectful. And like, what purpose does it serve? Are we supposed to be like feeling bad that Tommy Lee Jones is 40 years old?
I
Like,
think like I think what it's trying to do, right, is set up that like this is probably his last mission kind of thing.
oh,
And
like a lethal weapon scenario.
I mean kind of, but just
Like he's
like
retiring in 2 days, and
right, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I'm getting too old for this shit kind of thing.
exactly.
But so I think we are supposed to feel bad for him. But again, this is the military, and you would think that these soldiers would respect who he is, because this is like Brad Little is supposed to be like the greatest helicopter pilot the American military has ever had.
Right.
Right. And that's why he's teaching all of these guys. And that's why he's here and gets to go on the mission and everything. And everyone's just so disrespectful of him because he's just survived to 40.
Good job, man. Like, I
Like,
don't,
I don't know. Again, I'm not a military person, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but it just seems disrespectful.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, from our civilian eyes, it seems disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, one thing we didn't mention is that Tommy Lee Jones has requested to go on the mission when they do go out and try and take down the guys because he's the best helicopter pilot they have. And it's been denied and denied and denied. We need you here to train people. You're the best we have. That's why you have to be the trainer or whatever. It's a little bit of a discrepancy between whether Nick Cage's character is the best or Tommy Lee Jones' character is the best at this point because they both like well, Nick Cage is treated like he's the best, but the superior officers are saying that Tommy Lee Jones' character is the best.
I think it's supposed to be that like
The
Jake is
natural skill.
Jake has the same natural skill, but he doesn't have the experience. So he's the best of the next generation.
Right.
Right. And Brad is on his way out because he's 40 and he's going to be retiring soon.
Right. At 40, you're collecting your 401k and you're ready to go.
Well, it's like Logan's Run, you know?
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Renew, renew.
So during this boxing scene, Tommy Lee Jones asks Nick Cage if he wants to box him, and Nick's like, no, 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 and then eventually he does. But this whole time they're in like this gym area. The only thing I could pay attention to was for some reason Nick Cage's butt crack was very sweaty.
I did not notice that.
Maybe it was shadows, but there was a very dark spot right between the cheeks, and it moved with him. So I don't think it was shadows. But nobody on set was like, "Should we get Nick a like different pair of shorts or something for this scene?" It looks a little weird that he's just got like this one sweat spot in his butt crack.
That's pretty funny. I did. I
I don't
didn't
know.
notice. Maybe the lower fidelity of my laser disc that didn't come
Yeah,
through.
exactly. It
I didn't
didn't
have
really
HD.
capture. Yeah, I had the full HD experience.
That's great.
Yeah, so he boxes Tommy Lee Jones and kind of beats the crap out of him.
Yeah. So, like, what's your
I don't really
perspective on
know
this? You
what the
think
point of the scene was, but it
I
was
don't
very
either.
poorly choreographed. I can tell you that much.
Well, I mean, that's for sure. But like, it's not like we've been told up until this point that these are both good, like hand-to-hand fighters. They're good they're good pilots. They're good fighter pilots, helicopter pilots. Maybe again, I'm wrong here, but I don't know that being a good helicopter pilot automatically makes you a good boxer. I
Well,
don't
I
know
don't
that
think it's
those are.
about that. I think it's more just trying to establish that Tommy Lee Jones is trying to maintain uh his grasp on like his A. Like he wants to be the younger guy and he wants to make sure the
Yeah.
younger guys have respect for the older guys, and it fails miserably. I mean, I think they respect him, but like he is not really able to keep up with Nicolas Cage, even though maybe he claims he was a Golden Gloves champion or something like that when he
Yeah,
was
the light
younger. He
heavyweight,
does
I
not
think.
fight like he was, but um, I think it was just meant to establish that he's old. 40 is basically a deathbed, and Derek, you should probably get your will ready.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I've been looking at other hosts to fill in for you once you
yeah, because
retire,
I mean,
and
I no, it's not gonna be retired. I'm probably gonna just die
like right in the
because
middle of an
I'm
episode,
could happen. Keep watching, and it might happen live. But yeah, I mean, 40 is basically when your life ends.
It's true.
So,
Hmm.
um, I don't know if you noticed this. We've discussed it before on other movies, but I think this might be the earliest movie where we see Nicolas Cage's a very weird bottle drinking technique. You being the guy with a soda drinking YouTube channel or TikTok or whatever, wherever people put videos these days, would probably recognize that usually when you drink from a bottle, you just like put your lips against the bottle and just let the liquid flow into your mouth. Well, that's not how Nicolas Cage drinks out of a bottle. And as we've seen this in multiple other movies, he literally puts his whole mouth around the
Oh
opening
yeah,
of the bottle and drinks that way. I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with that. I'm sure functionally it works the same. And we did, I think, in the last movie, we noticed this, discuss if we thought it was a character, like it's something that character would do.
I think it's just how Nick does it.
No, yeah, this movie proves that that's just how Nick does it. And you know what? More power to him. It's just, I think, weird for most people to see.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe there's
surprised you
something to
didn't
it.
notice it. Maybe you should
Yeah,
try it during one of your next soda reviews.
the Nick Cage drink.
Yes.
No, I think honestly, I struggled a bit with this one. I was just kind of bored watching
Hmm.
this movie, and that's like for me a death sentence for a movie. Because if I'm bored, then I'm not fully paying attention. Maybe I'm glancing at my phone, and so I'm gonna miss little things like that because the movie's just not keeping me focused.
That's fair. So yeah, we get another scene of him out with Tommy Lee Jones. I think he was doing like his final test or something like that. And in this test, while you're flying the helicopter, you have to be completely blacked out, no windows around you, and only use the scope. It's kind of like Yoda training Luke Skywalker to like fight with oh no, more like Ben Kenobi training Luke Skywalker to fight with like no vision.
Right.
Except this is much worse because you're flying a helicopter, and if you crash, you could kill everybody.
Yeah, I wonder why didn't they just like run it at night?
Or in the simulator.
Well, that'd be that too. But yeah, at night he's like I think that would just kind of
Well, I
work.
think at night because then him and Tommy Lee Jones would both be at a disadvantage because they wouldn't be able to see as well.
Yeah, but
Because
he's supposed to be like this amazing pilot, right?
ultimately, Tommy Lee Jones can take control of the
Right.
flight.
Yeah, it's like a
Um,
driver's instructor, you know.
exactly. Yeah, there's a second, set of controls. But yeah, as soon as he has to do this blacked out thing with the scope, he just is terrible. And there were several moments where I was like, why didn't Tommy Lee Jones take control? He's putting way too much faith in this guy that clearly has, because it's showing the helicopter like wobbling and like getting super close to walls and stuff like that. And I feel like if I was in Tommy Lee Jones' world, I would, as soon as he got really close to a cliff one time, I would have been like, nah, you fail. But but Tommy Lee Jones gives him like 10 chances of
Yeah.
almost dying in an actual flight before he takes over the controls.
It's weird because at this point in the movie, it's hard to tell, does Brad Little want Jake to succeed or not?
Yes, it's weird. But then, of course, the woman figures out what the issue is.
Billy.
Yes, Einhorn figures out who the person or what the issue is. It turns out his eye dominance is different than what it should be with the scope. He has like opposite eye dominance, which is a real thing. I mean, if you've ever fired a firearm or done things like that, there is, you have to hold a gun or sight a gun differently depending on your dominant eye,
Sure.
similar with archery and things like that. It
But
is a
why
real
wouldn't the military like
make it so you can put it to the other
test
side.
test that? Why is that not part of the training program? Hey, you're going to be using this thing in one eye. Which is your dominant eye? Like,
Yeah, which Nick had never even heard of a dominant eye at this point. The whole thing seemed very like foreign to him. Um, Even though Tommy Lee Jones' character, it's revealed, has gone through this exact same thing.
I just okay. So this is a special program because we don't have pilots that can do this,
Yeah,
and we think Jake is going to be the best in the world at this once he's trained up. But we're going to let him wash out over something that was anecdotally correctable.
yes. That we know is correctable because other pilots have done it.
It just makes no sense. Just from like a military strategy standpoint, it makes no sense. Why spend all this time, all this money training a person just to have them wash out on something that was correctable?
It's very weird. Um, but uh Einhorn notices that that's going on and then goes, "Why don't you go?" Because he's put on probation after he fails this instruction. I don't think I mentioned that, but
Right.
he's put on probation and he's bummed out because he thinks he's going to be washed out of this group. And then she recognizes this and she said somehow knows Tommy Lee Jones had this exact same issue, so go talk to him. And so he goes to him and he's like, "Okay, we're going to fix this."
At
And
first,
so
he says no.
yeah. And then he's immediately like, "Well, okay," kind of like her with Nick Cage's advances. It's like, no, 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 no. Okay, yes, enthusiastic, yes. Um, but so they strap a pair of women's panties to his face with some sort of periscope rig.
Which I'm sorry, that's the only option
This
at the
is the only
military
way in the
base.
military, even though they have helicopters and like advanced flight simulators for 1990 and all this other stuff. A handmade periscope strapped to a pair of panties is the only way
Bright
to do
red,
this.
bright
Yeah.
red. I
So he has one eye covered by like the pair of panties, and then the other eye is seeing through this mirrored periscope. And then they tell him to go drive this Jeep, like a military Jeep. And
yeah,
he
oh, it's like a
almost
Humvee.
kills
Yeah,
about a dozen people.
yeah.
Like legitimately comes very close to killing himself and the people in the other vehicles and other people in his vehicle.
Because they're not on a track. They didn't build
No,
like an
they're driving
obstacle
around on like
course,
streets.
like military roads that are open.
Yeah. And nobody else knows what's going on. They just see a crazy person with panties and a periscope coming at them.
They even like end up pulling up next to one of their superior officers, and they just go about their business. Like I don't know what I don't know. It seems insane to me.
Yeah, basically we get a training montage, like a very 80s style training montage of him, except instead of like punching meat in the back of a freezer, he's driving around with panties and a periscope. It's much less
It's a bad
uh
montage.
yeah, it's not like the most exciting montage. In fact, I would say it's one of the worst montages, I think, from that era.
Yeah, I
Um
agree.
But yeah, and then magically the problem is solved, and he's an amazing pilot again.
In like an afternoon.
Yes. And then if you remember Top Gun, you get the scene of him racing uh the jet with his motorcycle, which is
Right.
iconic. Well, in this he has a Corvette. I think it's a
Yeah.
Corvette, like an
It's a
old ass
C2
Corvette. Yeah,
C2
yeah,
Corvette. Yeah.
yeah. Listen, guys, I'm a car guy, but I'm not big on like muscle cars. That's not my specialty. But yes, it looks like a Corvette to me. And this is the first time we're seeing it in the entire movie. Apparently, he's had it, but you would think a car like that would be a part to help create and round out his character, just like Maverick's motorcycle was. That
Yeah.
was a character in its own right. But no, we get some scenes of him driving around Einhorn in this thing.
Well, she's driving it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, I'm gonna drive, and it was like a whatever. It's supposed to be a cute thing, but by this point, she is 100% back in love with him, and ready to do anything he says. And now that he's had his eye dominance problem fixed, she is 100% on board
Well,
with
and he
doing
has the
him.
car still. So we didn't really say this, but they dated in the past.
Yeah,
That's like the big reveal is that they used to be together. So she thought this he would have gotten rid of this car. So she likes the car more than him, it seems.
it does seem that way. And apparently they are going somewhere to spend some time together. All we know is that it's a weirdly smoky room where they dance and listen to Phil Collins.
That's funny.
Wasn't
It's
isn't it? Isn't that
no,
right? No, we
it
they were
is.
in this room, and I'm like, where is all this smoke? It's not like a bar. It's just like a hotel room or something, but there's smoke everywhere.
Well, Jake keeps a fog machine in the Corvette,
I
so
guess just in case he needs to be filmed dancing and having sex to Phil Collins music.
oh
But yeah,
man.
we get Nicolas Cage sex scene, which is a bingo card spot, and then we get woman on top sex because they do multiple positions, and we get to see everything except the penetration. Um, so yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. And
Pretty exciting.
Smokey the whole time, Phil Collins the whole time. Um, yeah, so the next morning she's like, "Well, I have to get back to base," and he's like, "No, I booked us a trip to something."
Whatever.
And she's like, "No, I have to get back to base. Do you want to explain this to my superior officer?" And he's like, "Well, I fly this helicopter, so I am your superior officer." I'm like, I don't know that that's how that works,
No.
but you know, she grabs the keys from him and like and the map or whatever, and she's like, "No, we're going back to base." And they start like doing this thing that's supposed to be cute, chasing each other around the car. But then he slides on his belly across the trunk of the car with a huge metal belt buckle
I
on.
know.
And
Oh my
all I
god.
could think of as a person that actually cares about their vehicle is I would murder you if you did that on my car. How is he doing this on a car he loved? And this was even in 1990, this was a classic car still.
Yeah, this is a 60s car, like
You can't
64-ish,
just replace
65,
it
something
if
like
it
that.
if
Like,
you destroy it.
yeah.
But you can tell that this is not somebody that actually owns this car. That was incredibly obvious in that moment. I can't believe that this character owns this car and would treat it that way.
But again, we also get no real character development. We don't get to know anything about him, before this movie, what his interests are. It's just he's a pilot, he's a pilot, he's a pilot. It's all we get.
Yeah.
So again, these characters are hard to care about. At least with Tommy Lee Jones, we get to see his kids and his wife.
It's like they watched Top Gun and took the most superficial
Yeah.
parts of it and they were like, this is what we're going to do. And they
Yeah.
didn't really understand why Top Gun was successful.
I think that's fair.
Um, so yeah, they get back to the base and there's now I guess this is the real final test where you have to take down Tommy Lee Jones. You have to beat your instructor in this simulated air-to-air combat, and he does immediately. And it's the least exciting air combat I've ever seen in my life. I like helicopters are really cool. I
Sure.
know
Yeah.
I have had people I know that fly helicopters, and I've been up close on them, and they are really cool. And I like helicopters, but like watching, I don't know if it was just the movie or they're just really hard to film in a way that's dynamic. But everything about the air combat in this movie was not exciting.
I mean, I think there's a lot of factors, right? Because not only do you need pilots who can do advanced maneuvers, but you also need like choreographers and cinematographers who know how to plan and capture all of that at the same time. And
Right.
I don't think this movie had all three of those pieces.
There's been other movies before this that had exciting helicopter scenes. So
Right.
I know that it's possible to film exciting helicopter scenes, and nothing in this movie in the helicopter scenes. Well, there was one thing. I know we'll get to that later, but other than that, there was nothing exciting about how these helicopter scenes. Um, but then when they get back from him beating Tommy Lee Jones, uh, which I guess proves that he's the better pilot. They find out that they're getting sent for a real air-to-air mission. Um, and so Nick goes and talks to Einhorn and is like, "You can't go to this. It's got to be. It's only me that has to go to this. Women can't be allowed here, or something along those lines." And she's like, "No, I'm going. I'm a pilot and I'm part of the military. I'm going to go, and there's nothing that you can do about that." And he gets really mad and walks away and kicks the air.
The air, yeah, I saw it in the background. It's
Yeah,
so silly.
it's just ridiculous. He does like a high kick to the air, and
Well,
that's
and the
his
movie like
frustration.
the movie walks up to a point, which is the like, should women be serving in combat in the military, which has been a point of contention among certain groups. And it walks up to that point, and then his character's like, no, no, that's fine, just not you.
Right.
Not women I care about. Right. Like, and again, he's not a very likable character. So it doesn't come off as like a, well, I'm just really worried about you and I want to know that you're safe. It's more of just like he's an asshole.
Like a misogynist, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very misogynistic take. Um, One thing I want to mention that we haven't mentioned is that the opening of the movie, when I mentioned the establishing helicopter shot, it was a bunch of helicopters in front of a sunset or
Yes.
sunrise, which you notice is also the poster. It's also the artwork. Every bit of artwork that they used for this movie featured this shot. So you see that at the beginning of the movie. Then, midway through the movie, you see that same shot. Then, right now, you see that same shot again.
It's a great shot,
they were
right?
like they were like how can we get like Top Gun levels of cool shots with helicopters? We're gonna do this one thing a half dozen times in this movie, and it's not gonna be boring. Well, actually, it is boring. I mean, it's a cool shot the first time.
Sure. Yeah, it's a nice shot. There's nothing wrong with the shot.
Yeah, but the only difference between these shots is the different number of helicopters and which direction they're facing. Other than that, it's the same shot. So yeah, we get our third sunset helicopter shot or sunrise helicopter shot. Um,
I would have liked to have seen just some different angles of like maybe shooting like from above, shooting down on the helicopters, and
yeah.
seeing them the long ways,
Oh yeah,
going
over
across.
like
And
the landscape or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I just think like there's other things you could do. Now maybe I'm privileged in modern times because we have drones that can do a lot of really cool dynamic shots they didn't have in
Well, I'm going to tell
1990.
you something
But
crazy, Derek. But they have helicopters that can do those kind of shots of other helicopters. That's
whoa,
not a thing that doesn't exist in 1990.
that's
You're
true.
not
That's true.
crazy.
You're right.
Um, so yeah, they get to like wherever they're going, and we get some scenes of Tommy Lee Jones and Nick bonding. And at this point, I was like, Tommy Lee Jones gonna die. The whole movie lingering in the back of my mind is Tommy Lee Jones gonna die or the love interest is gonna die. One of those two is gonna die because they're just setting it up this whole movie.
I definitely
There's
thought
gonna be a big
Tommy.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Something like that is gonna happen. More likely Tommy.
Well, he's the only one who has a family, right? We're
Right.
introduced to his wife. We're introduced to his kids. We see his home.
Yeah.
He's 3 days from retirement and all that other
Exactly.
stuff.
Like
Like
he's gonna
it's
make some big sacrifice and die, and that's gonna fuel Nick Cage. Because Nick Cage hasn't even mentioned his friend that died at the beginning of the movie
no,
since
he
Allied
mentions it one
Council.
more time at the end, and that's it.
Yeah. So, he clearly that wasn't enough to like motivate him. Um, so we get okay, so there are all these helicopters are set up at a camp, uh, with some tents, but there's like some crude camouflage over things to kind of like hide it from satellites or something. But then there's just a random attack on the camp and it's just explosions. We don't know
Coming.
where it's coming from. My next note was attack on camp. Where is it from?
No
because
idea.
we never find out. There's just a bunch of explosions, people dying, but there's no helicopters or planes flying over. There's no mortars shown anywhere. There's nothing that would indicate that they're being attacked on other than explosions. We don't know where it's from.
There's no explanations from this point forward. We don't know any of that. We don't know how they were found or why people know
How
they're
the drug
there or
cartel? Well, there was like they do find the site of where somebody was, which was basically a crude satellite and like some sort of electronic thing,
yeah.
and they have to take that out because that's where how they found the camp. But it didn't have anything there that would be able to be capable of shooting long
Right.
distances
Yeah.
and exploding things. So it's very weird. Maybe for military people, they know of some way that this could have happened, but it was never explained in the movie where these attacks are coming from or, like how they're carried out. It's
Hmm.
just a bunch of explosions, and then all the pilots have to rush to their vehicles and go. Um, we start get the helicopters up, and they destroy this satellite location. Einhorn finds it, and um, then one of the other helicopters goes and destroys it. But while Einhorn is out scouting, the Stinger, which is what the helicopter that the bad guy flies, because of course it is called the Stinger. But he finds her, and even though he's the best pilot, he can't shoot her down. It's
And
impossible.
she's in a very different kind of helicopter. It's a spotter helicopter. It's like nowhere near as
It's like a
maneuverable.
one person,
Well, it's two. It's like two side by side though, not in one in front of the other. Like
right.
it's a more standard looking helicopter.
Yeah, it's not made for like air to air combat or any kind of evasive, stuff. But somehow this guy can't shoot her down. Um, but then, so everybody's rushing over to help her because they're supposed to be taking down this guy.
Hmm.
But then a jet shows up, and this is the only way this movie could make air combat exciting was to add planes.
And not just a plane, a fairly unique looking plane. This is
Right.
not like a common looking fighter
No, it
jet.
was like the bad guy jet from Top Gun, basically, like a
I mean,
MiG.
yeah, actually, yeah, it's exactly what it is.
They
That's
were like,
funny.
"How can we make this more like Top Gun? We're gonna add a MiG, which it probably isn't a MiG. Plane people, jet people, don't come after me. I don't know anything about it. It just resembled that to me.
It's supposedly a Swedish Saab J35F Drakan, which is a dragon.
Why didn't they
It's
just call it a dragon? Then that would have been awesome. It'd be like, oh, we got a dragon on us, something like that. Of course,
yeah.
based on the intelligence of people in this movie, they might have thought an actual dragon was there if somebody said that.
Forget
So
the
I don't know.
cartel, guys.
Yeah, we have a new mission. That would have made this movie
I
awesome.
right? Could you imagine? That's the third
Yeah.
act.
Yeah, they're time traveled into like a medieval place with dragons and have to
I'd watch that.
helicopters.
I'd
If
watch
you're
that.
listening, screenwriters, Derek, you write. You should write that out.
Nothing successful.
Nobody. This could be your breakout.
There we go.
But yeah, so the only way they can make the air combat as exciting as Top Gun, and not even as exciting as Top Gun, but try to, is to add a jet.
Yes.
Um, yeah, that was my note. Is they had to add a plane because heli combat is boring. Um, some Nick yells that I am your mother now, Calvin, to I think his co-pilot or something. I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on.
No, that's exactly what happened to the other guy in his helicopter. I don't know if he's a navigator or co-pilot. I don't know what the role is, but yes.
Right. Well, Nick Cage or not Nick Cage, Tommy Lee Jones gets shot down while
Yeah.
he's trying to save the love interest, and so he gets shot down, and they successfully pull the Stinger off of Einhorn's helicopter. And so she goes and lands, and because she's a woman, she has to be the healer of the party. And go try to save Tommy Lee Jones, who at this point I'm assuming was dead.
I didn't think he was dead. I thought she was going to like be with him as he died.
Yes, I thought
You know
at
what I
some
mean?
point this was where the death scene was going to
Yeah, yeah.
happen. That
Hmm.
motivates Nick at the end, and there's going to be a big sad funeral. And he's going to put his hand on the casket and go, "I did it for you. I did it."
Right.
And that was going to be moving, and everybody's going to cry a little bit, and then that's the end. But no, he doesn't die. Spoiler alert: he lives. But he is like pinned in this helicopter. I thought he was like pinched in half. It was like dying, but he was trying to instruct uh Einhorn on how to build a surface-to-air missile with parts from his helicopter.
Well, he says his legs were broken.
Right. Which,
So,
if you break your femur, one femur, that is enough to bleed out.
oof, really, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure you fact check me, but I'm pretty
I,
sure you can bleed out from breaking your femur because it's the biggest bone in your body,
right.
except for me. And so,
Jesus Christ.
I'm just kidding. It's
That
I sorry, it's just that joke had to write itself.
was it. We
But
lost our last subscriber.
there is so much blood in your femur that you can bleed out. I'm pretty sure
That's
from
interesting.
just breaking your femur. And he doesn't say his femur's broken, but based
Yeah.
on where he was sitting and the impact, it seemed likely that it was probably not just his femurs, but also his other leg bones. But who
But yeah,
knows? He's
he
not a
instructs
doctor.
her to build like a bazooka, essentially.
A surface to air missile, which seems to be heat seeking.
It she she's a helicopter pilot. She's a spotter helicopter pilot, and she hits a fighter jet with this thing. Like it's the most. This might be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in a military movie.
I'm pretty sure it was a heat-seeking missile. I'm not sure if she actually built it. Like, it did make it seem like that's what was going on, but he may have had that already on his helicopter for some reason, and she just needed to assemble it. But the way he's like calling out parts that are nowhere near close to each other makes. But I don't feel like he would have the technology or knowledge to completely assemble a heat-seeking missile that can lock onto a jet
I don't know if this is
from
a real
parts.
thing. Like, should this be able to happen?
Surface to air missiles that are heat seeking do exist, I'm sure.
But I mean, the act of taking apart the helicopter to
Yes,
build
that
one
part.
in like 30 seconds,
Unless like it was just a thing that he had in his helicopter anyway.
just in case.
I don't know, man. I'm not military, so it's hard to say
I,
what they put in helicopters. But
but then
if
wouldn't
they,
she know how to do it then?
I'm sure they don't put it in like spotter helicopters. I'm sure it's more for like the air-to-air combat type helicopters. But
Uh,
either way, if we just
it's
assume that she didn't make it like MacGyver from scratch of the helicopter,
it seemed
um,
ridiculous.
yeah. But then she says, "Snort that, sucker,"
Yep.
when she hits the jet with the missile.
Very in character.
Very in character, something that she said so many times before. Um, yeah. So then they shoot down the Scorpion, and there's more Phil Collins.
Well, yeah, Nick does some maneuver where he goes over like a ridge and drops down and stops, and the guy flies over him and
And even
does
though
like
he's the
a
best helicopter pilot the world has ever seen, Nicolas Cage, he falls for the most basic maneuver, and Nicolas Cage gets him.
he got cocky.
Yeah, and then we get more Phil Collins while he lands to check on his girl and Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones is fine. It's just a flesh wound.
Uh-huh.
And then we get helicopters flying in front of the moon to really change the contrast of everything else. Such a different shot than
The,
the other shots.
well, the sun has set on this mission, Ryan.
Yes.
That's
So
the
now after three shots of the sun with helicopters in front of it, now we need one with the moon. The creativity was off the charts. And that's how the movie ends.
That's the
So
movie. That's the whole freaking movie, man. I mean, yeah, I don't think we skipped anything. That's the whole movie. I mean, there is one scene after the boxing match where he wakes up at home and he can't stand up, and his wife's like helping him get dressed and stuff.
yeah. To be honest, at 41 years old, when I get up out of bed, I have to be on a steady diet of ibuprofen to stand up anyway. So it's fairly realistic. Actually, I give it more points for the realism on that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So usually after we discuss these movies, we go to IMDb and we look at some of the reviews that people have voted to be helpful. Um, high scoring and low scoring. Usually we look at the ones in the tens. So yeah, Derek, this one has 10 one-star reviews and two 10-star reviews. Which would you like me to start on?
Let's just hear those two 10-star reviews. It is really funny when you go like on IMDb and it has like the featured reviews. Just the titles of the first two are not as bad as many say, and a true car crash of a film.
Yeah.
Those are the top two there.
So we get our top review of the 10 stars. Okay, so this is funny to me. This was a review from a person who flew Black Hawk helicopters.
Oh, okay.
And he has one helpful thumbs up and four not helpful thumbs downs
Interesting.
on this review. I'm like, this guy actually flew helicopters. Maybe we should you know, value what he has to say. He gives this movie a 10 out of 10. He said, now that this movie is about 17 years old, this was in 2007 when he wrote this, I decided to write a review. This movie came out around the time I was preparing for my selection to flight school. At the time, I really wanted to fly the Apache, but I would have ended up flying Black Hawk helicopters. I really made learning to fly helicopters in the Army a bit more glamorous than it really is, of course. It was, however, a good movie that helped to represent the Army's side of Top Gun. The downside is that flying helicopters is not nearly as fast as flying F-14s, A-4s, and F-5s. The upside is that flying helicopters is much more difficult than flying the fighters. This movie accurately depicted the concentration and skill that it takes to fly an attack helicopter. The need to get our girlfriends and wives out to the movie required the typical love plot that is always required to get and keep their attention and fill downtime in the film. Ouch. Jet A was not even cheap way back in the 1990s. A former military buddy worked on the set of the film. He noted that Sean was pretty cocky and arrogant. Sean being
Sean
the
Young.
woman
Yeah.
Einhorn in the movie.
Billy.
Pretty cocky and arrogant. When the day was over, her limo would roll up with her minions and off they went, never addressing folks on the set. Nicolas Cage was a polar opposite and was very open to even having a drink with the guys and girls after filming was complete. He made sure everyone felt included, as I understand it. That must be one of the reasons that his career took off. He is just wonderfully charismatic. That's the kind of thing I do like to read. It makes me
Yes,
feel like, when we picked a podcast actor or an actor to do a podcast about, that we picked a good one.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stories like that about him out there. But yes, I do love hearing that. So thank you, Fly Guy Bob. We appreciate that. Um, this other 10 out of 10 review, the title is A Fine Example of What is Lacking in the Film Industry Today. This was written in 2008. So today, keep in mind, is 2008. To speak of Firebirds is to speak of one of the greatest cinematic achievements in recent years. Every aspect of this film is pristine and unique from many films. The writing stands out above all else. Oh, God. Whether it's Tommy Lee Jones talking about why he joined the military, I wanted to be a full-blown American hero, cooking full tilt boogie for freedom and justice, which, yes, is a real line from the movie. Or Cage's, are you gonna ever let me win? The moment where, after a fight with his girlfriend, Nicolas Cage kicks the air in exasperated anger as his girlfriend walks away and wipes a single tear from her eyes easily brings many to remember such powerful moments as Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet with their arms spread on the Titanic, and such classic lines as I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Firebirds truly stands the test of time and will for many years to come. Fun fact, the Dalai Lama has said after viewing the film that he believes if Jesus does one day return to Earth, before he brings on the reckoning, he will pause for 90 minutes and view the film before letting all involved in the film in heaven first. That makes me feel better because in the early parts of that review, I was like, this
It's a
seems
joke.
like it could be a joke. But
Yeah.
by the end, it fully embraces that. So thank you, JB Rotman 23, for making me laugh with that review, making me question whether this was real through the whole thing. Okay, so those are the only two 10-star reviews. I do think the one from the former pilot was, valuable
To an
to
extent, it's
read.
also kind of sexist.
It was a little sexist, very sexist, yes. But
So,
uh, you know, it comes from a perspective that neither of us have. Um, let's see here. 1 out of 10s. This one is considered the most helpful with 20 thumbs up, but it also has 20 thumbs down.
oh,
So equally
okay.
split. Worst dialogue ever written for a film. Subject says it all. The worst movie ever made. Seriously, zero redeeming qualities. Even the action scenes are boring. Stilted dialogue, insipid plot, derivative storyline, laughable direction and acting. This film is a landmark of bad films, something that should be enshrined in the Hall of Shame. Do not watch this film under any circumstances, including being held at gunpoint. I think he's implying there that being shot in the head is preferable to watching this film. Rarely will you see talented people having their skills so poorly used, even when they obviously phoned in the part. Cage and Jones, usually actors of some quality, are total stereotypes and probably made the biggest mistakes of their acting careers by allowing this film to ever be released with their faces and names attached to it. Sean Young, however, performs up to expectations as there are none for her. Did I
What
mention
is?
this movie is incredibly, unbelievably bad?
I don't know what that means. So Sean Young's been in a million things. This was far from her first movie. I mean, she was in the original Blade Runner. Just like for perspective, she was in the original Dune. Like she's been around for a long time. She's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I definitely can't agree with there were no expectations for her. She was a big name.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody that just hadn't seen any of her other works, I guess. This one's title is more like Fire Crap. After the success of Top Gun, ripoffs were a given. Firebirds is without a doubt the worst of them, with such great memorable quotes as "Snort this," "Damn, he's fast," "I'm your mama now," and "I am the greatest." The script is unintentionally hysterical. With future Academy Award winners Nicolas Cage and Tommy Lee Jones, you would guess this film to be somewhat decent. Well, guess again. Whatever studio executive greenlit this fiasco should be forced to watch it a la Clockwork Orange. Then maybe he would feel the pain audiences who paid money in the theater to see this trash felt. I'm sure that if Cage, Jones, and then up and comer Sean Young could go back to before they signed their name on the dotted line for this one, they'd have fired, pun intended, their agents, even showing them the scripts. What were they thinking?
Up and comer. It's so funny to me how people just like don't know. Like, okay, so just for perspective here, because I have not watched everything Sean Young has been in. Before this movie, she had been in, among other things, she had been in Wall Street, No Way Out, Dune, Blade Runner, and Stripes.
She
Just
was in Stripes. I forgot
yeah,
about that.
just among other things. She was in other stuff too. She was not like like she's been in a bunch of stuff. Like we
Yeah.
talk about how much Nick has been in. She was in 134 productions she's
To be
been
fair,
in.
I'm not really doing her any favors by calling her Einhorn but that's just the movie I know her from.
Well,
That was
and
probably
that's
her biggest movie at the time, like in terms of box office.
I mean probably, right? Cuz that was like
Ace
90
Ventura was
like
huge.
94. Yeah. So, but she's been in a lot of things.
Yes.
Okay, just to kind of call that out. All right. So,
Okay, so here's another one from somebody that was in the military around this time. This one's a 1 out of 10. Oh my God, it's the title.
okay.
I graduated flight school in 1986 from the Cobra course in Fort Rucker, Alabama. When this movie came out in 1990, we all in the aviation community knew it was going to be a train wreck, had no idea there would be hazardous waste on the train itself. I could throw some spoilers out there, but the one thing I could not believe is they didn't demonstrate that a Cobra has a helmet-controlled automatic three-barrel cannon, which allows you to just look at your target, pull the trigger, and within a half second, the gun would be firing 20 millimeter rounds at the target, regardless if you're in the front seat
Jesus.
or the back seat. That's the first thing that made me want to throw up. It got worse from there. For those of you who know nothing about the military or aviation, this movie was indeed the most awesome train wreck I've ever witnessed. I won't get too much in the weeds. I actually wish you would get in the weeds a little
I
bit because I
know,
like to
right?
know that kind of stuff. We are both kind of people that would like that stuff. But if the
Yeah.
enemy doesn't have fixed wing aircraft, there's no need for you to go out with stingers on your aircraft, which I think the Stinger was the surface to air missile.
Okay.
So there you go. They do carry those.
Okay.
Um, there are so
That
many
makes that scene
holes.
better because I thought that scene was ridiculous. So that helps.
Agreed. There are so many holes in logic in this movie. I truly feel bad for the actors. There's absolutely no way to escape this abysmal failure of cinema. The word awful doesn't even come close. You can watch this movie, but trust me when I say it doesn't come close to depicting military tactical operations. It comes closer to bearing a resemblance to the Cub Scouts guide, in as much as it has nothing to do with the Cub Scouts. One of the things that truly stood out is it's a little hard to grow a lot of drugs in the desert. True. Kind of stands out like a sore thumb. The writers had
That's
no
funny.
understanding of what they were writing about. As a retired rotorhead, I would be lying if I didn't like the flight scenes. But again, for civilians, this has nothing to do at all with reality. As well, if you go up against a Cobra, you will lose very badly, very quickly. So there you go.
There. I
Yeah,
found
that
that
does
one way more
shed.
helpful.
Yeah, that one was very helpful. Thank you to a Gremlin 82 for sharing that point of view with us. It does change some of the logic in the movie for us. So yeah, I think that's good on the reviews. Now we have to decide our ratings for it.
Yes, we have our Cage-O-Meter. You can go to comingofcage.com to see our interactive Cage-O-Meter. And we have two scales. We have overall quality and overall caginess. And they're 20-point scales because Nick's been in a bunch of stuff, and this helps kind of spread things out a bit, make it easier to find movies. So, this is interesting because what I do is when I'm rating our next movie, I kind of look back And I go in with an idea and I see, well, what else did I give that score? And then I decide, was this better or worse than those things? So I started with an 8. I was going to give it an 8. We've seen way worse. Obviously,
Yes.
we've seen
Yeah.
way
The
better.
person in the review saying that this was the worst movie ever. Obviously, it's not the worst movie ever. We've seen many, many Nicolas Cage movies and other actor movies that are much worse than this.
Yeah, clearly they never saw Zondali. But
Right.
so I looked at an 8 and I'm like, you know what? This is better than everything I gave an 8.
Yeah. I don't
But
think it
it,
was nearly as bad as you're saying it is, but yeah, eight. I thought you were going to go lower than an eight. That's why I say
no,
that.
I'm actually going to go with a 9
Yeah.
because I think it's better than everything I gave an 8 to. It's not as good as everything I've given a 9 to. So I'm going to give it a 9.
Yeah. I'm going to give
Um,
it a 10 because I think
okay.
it's a incredibly average quality Nick Cage movie. Um, you know, there were parts that made me laugh. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Probably not. But, you know, I don't know. Probably it's not fair also, but I do tend to give higher scores to like the films from this era because it is interesting seeing like the world as it was in 1990 because we've lived through that. So
That's true.
for that probably shouldn't add anything to me, but it is always interesting, and maybe that brings me up a couple points on things. But
Well, I think time is also important from like, the props and special effects and fight
right,
scenes and things like that because those should be better now. And it's not
for sure,
fair to use the same scale, and that goes for like indie flicks versus blockbuster flicks. When he does a National Treasure, I expect bigger things out of that than when he does a movie that has a budget of $1 million.
yeah.
So that does matter.
And they did
Um,
do like real helicopter flying, and
yeah,
like this was the time period when I mean, they used miniatures and stuff like that in a lot of films, but all this seemed to be real helicopters, real jets, real actual things. So you
I
know,
agree. And he's in helicopters at
yeah,
times, not always, of course, but at times he's in helicopters. And, while the flight simulator may not be realistic, it's very well done. It
yeah,
looks really good. It's believable to somebody who's not in the military and doesn't know what they would have used. It looks real to me.
for sure,
Those things matter. So I think a 10.5 that, or was that come to a 9.5?
yeah,
I think that's perfectly fine. Now we've got caginess. There are cagey moments in
yeah.
this movie. There's the
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 air
air
kick,
kick, right? For example, but there's not like a ton of them. So Ryan, what are you thinking for caginess?
it's not that cagey. I mean, there is some. It like some of the scenes I think in the bathroom after he beats up the guy and chases her down. There's some caginess there. Like I don't know. I'm gonna say like a five. It's
Oh, okay.
there, maybe a six. I don't know. Where are you at with it?
I was gonna say a 6, so
Okay,
we're pretty
so
close.
yeah, I think five. I'll stick with. It's not that cagey, but there are a few moments.
Yeah. Now that does put it in arguably the bad quadrant, if there is such a thing. So if you look at it, we've got 4 quadrants, right? You've got low quality, low kg, low quality, high kg, low kg, high quality, and high for both. And obviously those last two, those are going to be good movies, right? It's just the kind of Nicolas Cage you're looking for, but they're all good movies from, Pig to the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Basically, there's something redeemable in every square other than low quality, low cage.
Exactly, because you've got in the low quality high cage, you've got things like Vampire's Kiss and Prisoners of the Ghostland.
That are entertaining just because of his performance, mostly.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yes. So this is, maybe in the quadrant if you're not going to watch everything of his, maybe you skip this one, uh, but it's not great. So
yeah.
there you go. Now we have our wheel O cage, and that is what we use to pick what movies we watch. We don't watch them in any particular order. We do whatever the wheel picks. And so we have to remove Firebirds from the wheel, and joining the wheel from our ever shortening list of movies and now eligible to be picked is Dream Scenario.
That's what we've both been looking forward to. So
Yeah, I'm
it's a very,
very excited.
very recent movie.
Hmm. And there's not much left that has not been on the wheel. So, including Dream Scenario, there were only 10 left. Now that Dream Scenario has joined the wheel, there are only 9 movies left that have not been on the wheel. So there you go. The wheel's pretty exciting right now. So we've got some good stuff out on the wheel. That includes, of course, now Dream Scenario, Color Out of Space, Wild at Heart, The Surfer, we've got Longlegs, Kick-Ass, Ghost Rider, among others, are eligible to be picked for our next movie. So to find out what we watch next, this was our 90th Nicolas Cage movie, by the way. I don't think we said that. This is our 90th
Nice.
movie. So
We're
to
not
find
far
what
from 100.
we're getting there, we're
We're getting
closing
pretty
in.
close. Yeah.
We're gonna,
Final
we're,
10% here.
we're gonna hit it in April. April 2026, we will watch our 100th Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Mark it, dude. But to find out what we're talking about next on the Coming of Cage podcast for episode 92 of the show, go to comingofcage.com. You can find all of our links there. You can subscribe on your podcast app of choice. You can watch us on the Derrico Studios YouTube channel. You can also watch Cage-O Bingo and Wheel of Cage on all of our social media outlets. Ryan, anything else for Firebirds?
There's some fun lists on IMDb that feature this movie.
Oh,
There's one called Military, with spelled Militery, that has
okay.
41 movies on it.
Okay.
There's one called Nicolas Cage Movies that has 25 movies on it. So I'm not sure that that's very complete.
Maybe
Best
that's just ones
films,
they've seen.
yeah, maybe. Best films of 1990 has 28 titles on it, and this is one of them.
Okay.
Keepers, okay, I don't know. War movies, which I would not consider this a war movie, but it has 27 titles on it, including this one.
It's the war on
And
drugs, Ryan.
Cage films I haven't seen, in all caps, with 47 titles on it. So some fun user lists from IMDb there.
Okay. I mean,
But
that's a
no,
fair one. That's just tracking. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But I don't know why you need that to be public, but hey,
whatever works.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everyone for tuning in to the show. I'm Derek. That's Ryan.
We'll see you next time.